Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Manhattan, New York. Sterling Enterprises Corporate Tower. The elevator's silence was suffocating. 23 floors of pure agony, while Olivia Harper tried not to look at the man beside her, the same man who had just fired half the marketing department on a random Tuesday morning. Alexander Sterling, CEO, son of the founder, and apparently, according to office whispers, completely heartless. The elevator stopped on the 15th floor. The doors opened like theater curtains, revealing the lobby of the company's holiday party. The sound of conversations and laughter invaded the aroma of catered hors d'oeuvres and soft jazz playing in the background. Olivia took a deep breath. Just a few more hours, and she could go home, eat ice cream straight from the container, and binge-watch reality TV until she forgot her job was hanging by a thread. Sterling. Alexander's deep voice made her freeze at the elevator exit. She turned, expecting another critique of her quarterly report, or maybe an ultimatum about sales numbers. "Yes, sir?" He looked at her strangely, as if calculating something. Before he could respond, a familiar voice shouted from across the lobby, "Olivia, sweetie." Olivia's blood ran cold. Aunt Marlene. Of course Shed be here. After all, Shed worked in HR for 15 years and never missed a company party. And of course, Shed brought the full family interrogation squad. Questions about dating, marriage, kids, and why a 28-year-old woman was still wasting her best years. "Honey, come here." Aunt Marlene waved energetically, drawing half the office's attention. "I want you to meet Margaret from payroll's son. Has a doctor." Olivia felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Co-workers, bosses, the catering staff. Everyone waiting to witness the next episode of Olivia Harper and her non-existent love life. 5 seconds. She had 5 seconds before Aunt Marlene arrived with the doctor in tow. 4, 3, 2. Her brain went into complete panic mode. 1. "Oh, Aunt Marlene, sorry, but I already have a fiancé." The words flew out of her mouth before she could stop them. The entire lobby seemed to stop breathing. Even the jazz music seemed to lower its volume. "Fiancé," Aunt Marlene shouted loud enough for the entire building to hear. "Where is he?" Olivia felt cold sweat running down her back. Without thinking, her finger pointed to the first person she saw. Alexander Sterling, the company's CEO, the man who had just stepped out of the same elevator as her, the most arrogant, cold, and impossible human being she knew. It's him. The silence that followed was so profound Olivia was sure she could hear her heart exploding. Alexander looked at her as if she had completely lost her sanity, which, technically, she had. "Him?" Aunt Marlene blinked several times, as if trying to process the information. "The boss?" "Yeah, surprise." Olivia smiled so forcedly her cheeks began to hurt. That's when Alexander did something no one expected. He smiled back. Not just any smile, a slow, devastating smile that transformed his entire face from Arctic tundra to something that belonged on a magazine cover. "Hello, Mrs." His voice was smooth as whiskey as he extended his hand to Aunt Marlene. Harper. Marlene Harper, Olivia's aunt. She practically vibrated with excitement as she shook his hand. "Oh my goodness, I can't believe Olivia kept you a secret." Olivia watched in horror as Alexander, the same man who once made an intern cry for bringing him the wrong coffee, turned on charm she didn't even know he possessed. "Well, we wanted to keep things private until we were sure," he said, his arm suddenly wrapping around Olivia's waist and pulling her against his side. She could smell his cologne, expensive, woodsy, and unfortunately very appealing. You know how office relationships can be complicated. Office romance. Aunt Marlene clapped her hands together. Like a romantic movie. Olivia felt Alexander's hand tighten slightly on her waist. When she looked up at him, his steel-gray eyes held a dangerous glint that seemed to say, "You started this, Harper. Now we're both in it. When's the wedding?" Someone from the crowd called out, "Are you moving in together?" Another voice added, "Have you picked a venue?" The questions came rapid fire, and Olivia felt the walls closing in. This was supposed to be a simple lie to get Aunt Marlene off her back, not a full-blown performance for the entire company. "We're still figuring out the details," Alexander said smoothly, his thumb making small circles on her hip that made her brain short-circuit. "But I can tell you that Olivia makes me very happy." The crowd collectively sighed, and Olivia was pretty sure she saw her co-worker Lauren actually swoon. "You know what?" Aunt Marlene announced to the growing audience. "This calls for a celebration, everyone. The drinks are on me tonight." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Olivia watched in mounting horror as her simple lie snowballed into the company event of the year. As people began to disperse, chattering excitedly about the unexpected announcement, Alexander leaned down to whisper in her ear. His breath was warm against her skin, sending involuntary shivers down her spine. "My office. 5 minutes. We need to talk." Then he was gone, leaving Olivia standing alone in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by the wreckage of what used to be her quiet, anonymous work life. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, Sophia. "Mom just called. Marlene told her everything. Shay's planning the wedding. Call me now." Olivia closed her eyes and counted to 10. When she opened them, Lauren was standing in front of her with wide eyes and an enormous grin. "Girl," Lauren whispered, "you have been holding out on us. How long have you and Mr. Ice King been?" "It's complicated," Olivia muttered, already heading toward the elevators. "Complicated how?" Lauren pressed. "He looked at you like you were the last slice of pizza on earth." Olivia jabbed the elevator button with more force than necessary. "Just complicated." As the elevator doors closed, Olivia caught sight of her reflection in the polished metal. Her auburn hair was slightly mussed, her cheeks flushed, and her lips parted in what looked suspiciously like anticipation rather than panic. The elevator climbed toward the executive floor, and with each floor, Olivia's sense of impending doom grew stronger. She had 5 minutes to figure out how to explain to Alexander Sterling, her boss, her supposed fiancé, and the man who held her career in his perfectly manicured hands, that she had just accidentally engaged them both in the lie of the century. The elevator dinged softly as it reached the 23rd floor. Game over, Olivia thought as the doors slid open. But as she walked down the hallway toward Alexander's corner office, she couldn't shake the memory of how his hand had felt on her waist, or the way his eyes had lit up when he smiled at her. Maybe, just maybe, this disaster might turn into something interesting after all. Or maybe she was about to get fired in the most spectacular way possible. Either way, Olivia Harper was about to find out what happened when you accidentally engaged yourself to the most powerful man in the building. The mahogany door to his office loomed ahead. Olivia realized that in about 30 seconds, her life was either going to get very complicated or very short. She knocked twice and waited. "Come in. Here goes nothing," she thought, and stepped into the lion's den. Alexander Sterling's office was exactly what you'd expect from a man who probably had ice water running through his veins instead of blood. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a desk that could double as a landing strip for small aircraft, and awards lining the walls like trophies from corporate warfare. Olivia stood in the doorway, suddenly feeling like she was about to face a firing squad. Alexander was behind his desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking like head stepped out of a cologne advertisement titled "Devastatingly Handsome CEOs Who Could Ruin Your Life." "Close the door," he said without looking up from his computer. She did. The soft click sounded like the final nail in her career coffin. "So," Alexander finally looked at her, leaning back in his chair with the kind of calm that made her skin crawl. "Fiancé. I can explain. I'm listening." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "This should be fascinating." Olivia sat down, trying to channel confidence she absolutely did not feel. "My aunt has been trying to set me up with every eligible bachelor in Manhattan since I turned 25. She works in HR, she knows everyone's personal business, and she's relentless. So, you were the first person I saw, and my brain short-circuited. And now the entire company thinks we're engaged." "Yes. And your family thinks we're engaged. Apparently my mom is already planning the wedding, so yes." Alexander was quiet for a long moment, his steel-gray eyes studying her face like she was a particularly interesting puzzle. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Harper? Probably destroyed my career. Possibly." He stood up, walking around to lean against the front of his desk, arms crossed, but maybe not. That wasn't what Shed expected him to say. What do you mean? I have a proposition for you. Oh no, what kind of proposition? The kind where we both get what we want. He pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolling through what looked like text messages. I've received 14 texts in the last 10 minutes, half from board members congratulating me, half from women I've been avoiding asking when they can meet my mysterious fiancé. Women you've been avoiding? I'm 32 years old, Harper. Am single, wealthy, and according to Forbes, one of the most eligible bachelors in New York. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to have every social interaction analyzed as a potential romantic connection? Olivia blinked. Are you seriously complaining about being rich and attractive? I'm complaining about not being able to focus on my work without someone's daughter or niece or friend being thrown at me at every charity gala, business dinner, or board meeting. So, what are you suggesting? Alexander moved closer, his presence somehow taking up all the oxygen in the room. We make this work for both of us. You need your family off your back. I need mine off mine. We pretend to be engaged for a few months, attend some events together, make it look believable, then have a very amicable, very public breakup. You want to fake a relationship? I want to fake an engagement. There's a difference. Olivia's mind was racing. What's in it for me besides not getting fired? Promotion, senior marketing director, your own team, a salary increase that would make your head spin. Her jaw dropped. You're bribing me. I'm offering you a mutually beneficial arrangement. You're talented, Harper. Your campaign proposals are innovative. Your market analysis is spot on. And you've been stuck in middle management because Jenkins is an idiot who takes credit for your work. How do you know about Jenkins? I know everything that happens in my company, including the fact that you've been carrying his department for the past 2 years. This was insane. All of it. What would we have to do? Attend events together. A few dinners, maybe a charity gala or two. My grandmother's 80th birthday party next month, that's non-negotiable. She'd never forgive me if I missed it. We'd need to look comfortable together, like we actually like each other. That might be the hardest part of this entire arrangement. For the first time since she'd known him, Alexander Sterling actually laughed. It was a rich, warm sound that completely transformed his face. Ouch, Harper. And here I thought we had such a lovely moment downstairs. That was panic and survival instinct. Well, you're going to need to work on your acting skills because my grandmother has a sixth sense about these things. She'll see right through us if we're not convincing. Olivia stood up, pacing to the window. The city sparkled below them all, lights and possibilities and probably 1,000 people making better life choices than she was about to make. This is crazy. Completely. It could backfire spectacularly, most likely. I could end up hating you even more than I already do. I'm wounded, he said, smiling when he said it. She turned back to face him. What happens if we get caught? We don't get caught. We're both intelligent adults who can maintain a professional arrangement. And when it's over, clean break, no hard feelings. You keep your promotion, I get 6 months of peace from well-meaning matchmakers. Olivia looked at him, really looked at him. Without the usual scowl he wore around the office, without the intimidating CEO armor, he almost looked human, tired. Maybe like he carried more weight than just running a multi-billion-dollar company. Why me? She asked quietly. You could have picked anyone in that lobby. Something flickered across his face, too quick for her to identify. You picked me first, remember? That's not an answer. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you're the only person in this building who isn't afraid to argue with me. I'm terrified of you. No, you're not. Intimidated, maybe, but not afraid. You called me an arrogant, heartless corporate robot to my face last month. You heard that? I was standing right behind you. Olivia's cheeks flamed. Why didn't you fire me? Because you were right. He moved back to his desk, pulling out a contract from his drawer. I had legal draw this up while you were coming up here. You had a fake engagement contract drafted in 5 minutes? I have very efficient lawyers, and I always plan for contingencies. She took the papers, scanning the terms. It was thorough, covering everything from public appearances to social media posts to what would happen if either party wanted out early. Clause 15, she read aloud. No physical contact beyond what is necessary for public appearances. I thought that would make you more comfortable. It does. She kept reading. 6-month term, renewable by mutual consent, weekly briefings on upcoming events, separate living arrangements maintained at all times. Any questions? About 1,000, but they all boil down to one. Are we really doing this? That depends. Do you want to spend the next 5 years explaining to your family why you're still single, or do you want to run the marketing department? Olivia looked at the contract again. The salary number made her dizzy. She could pay off her student loans, help her parents with their mortgage, maybe even take a real vacation for the first time in 3 years. I have conditions. I'm listening. No one at work knows this is fake. If we're doing this, we're selling it completely. Agreed. I get input on any events we attend. I'm not showing up to find out you volunteered us for some corporate retreat in the Hamptons. Fair. And I wanted in writing that this promotion isn't contingent on the fake engagement. If I do good work, I keep the job regardless. Alexander studied her face. Done. Anything else? Yeah. She looked him directly in the eye. If you ever make me feel like an employee who's being paid to play pretend girlfriend, this deal is off immediately. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe respect. Understood. Olivia took the pen he offered and signed her name at the bottom of the contract. So, she said, handing it back to him, when do we start, fiancé? Right now. He glanced at his watch. We're having dinner tonight. We are? Your Aunt Marlene just texted me. Apparently she gave your mother my number, and your mother invited us to dinner at her place in Brooklyn. 7 o'clock. Olivia's stomach dropped. You're kidding. I never kid about meeting the parents, Harper. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Hope you're ready to meet your fake future in-laws. This is happening way too fast. Welcome to the Harper Family Express, apparently. He paused at the door. By the way, what's my favorite food? How would I know? We're engaged, sweetheart. You should probably know these things. The endearment rolled off his tongue like he'd been using it for years. Something fluttered in Olivia's stomach that she absolutely did not want to examine too closely. Italian, she said quickly. You love Italian food. Good choice. What's yours? Thai. Perfect. What else do I need to know about your family? They're loud. They ask too many personal questions, and they're going to love you because you have a pulse and a steady income. Sounds delightful. Alexander. He turned back to her. Yeah? Thank you for not firing me. Thank me after you meet my grandmother, he said. You might change your mind. As he left, Olivia sank back into the chair, staring at the contract in her hands. She had just agreed to fake an engagement with the most intimidating man she'd ever met. This was either going to be the best decision of her life or the most spectacular disaster. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Mom bought champagne. Dad's getting out the good china. Please tell me you know what you're doing. Olivia typed back, not even a little bit. But as she looked out at the city again, she couldn't help smiling. Game on. Alexander Sterling. The Harper family brownstone in Brooklyn Heights looked like something out of a home decorating magazine if that magazine specialized in cheerful chaos meets Pinterest dreams. Alexander pulled his Tesla up to the curb, staring at the house with its bright blue door, window boxes overflowing with autumn flowers, and what appeared to be at least 15 different wind chimes creating a symphony on the front porch. You grew up here? He asked, turning off the engine. Don't sound so surprised, Olivia said, checking her lipstick in the passenger mirror. Shed changed from her work clothes into a burgundy sweater dress that made her auburn hair look like it was on fire. Not everyone lives in a Manhattan penthouse. I don't live in a penthouse. Tribeca Loft, Upper East Side brownstone, actually. My grandmother left it to me. Of course she did. Olivia grabbed the bottle of wine they'd stopped to buy. Okay, here are the rules. My dad is going to want to talk business with you. Don't let him corner you about his landscaping companies, financial projections. My mom is going to ask when we're having kids. Deflect. My sister Sophia is going to interrogate you like you're applying for the CIA, and my brother Ethan is going to challenge you to some kind of ridiculous competition. What kind of competition? Last time my sister brought someone home, it was arm wrestling. Before that, video game soccer. Ethan doesn't like to lose. Alexander straightened his tie. Anything else? Yeah. My family can smell fake from a mile away. If we're doing this, we need to actually look like we care about each other. How hard can it be? The front door burst open before they'd even reached the porch steps, and a small hurricane in the form of Olivia's mother came barreling toward them. Olivia! And you must be Alexander. Claire Harper was a petite woman who somehow managed to take up twice her actual space through sheer force of personality. She grabbed Alexander in a hug that probably crushed at least 3 ribs. Oh, honey, you're even more handsome than Marlene said. Thank you, Mrs. Harper. It's wonderful to meet you. Call me Claire. Mrs. Harper makes me sound old. She grabbed his arm, already dragging him toward the house. Daniel! Daniel! They're here! Olivia mouthed sorry at Alexander as they were swept into a living room that looked like it had been decorated by someone with a serious addiction to throw pillows and family photos. Every surface held at least 7 pictures of various Harper family members at different life stages. So this is the famous Alexander. A tall man with graying hair and Olivia's same green eyes stood up from a recliner, extending his hand. Daniel Harper, I have to say, son, you've got excellent taste. Dad. Olivia warned, her cheeks flushing pink. What? I'm just saying your mother and I were beginning to think you were going to end up one of those career women with 12 cats. I'm allergic to cats, which is why we were so worried. A younger woman who looked like a blonde version of Olivia emerged from what smelled like the kitchen. I'm Sophia, she said, shaking Alexander's hand with a grip that could probably crack walnuts. So how exactly did you and my sister end up together? Because last month she called you and I, quote, a soulless corporate overlord with the personality of a tax audit. Sophia. Olivia looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. What? I'm just curious about the transformation. Alexander glanced at Olivia, seeing the panic in her eyes. Time for some damage control. Well, he said, settling onto the couch and pulling Olivia down next to him, his arm automatically going around her shoulders. Your sister has a very colorful vocabulary when she's passionate about something. I found it refreshing. Most people are afraid to tell me what they really think. Olivia never had that problem. He looked down at her, and for a moment the act almost felt real. I knew she was special from the first time she told me I was wrong. About what? This from Ethan, a younger version of Daniel who just appeared with what looked like motor oil on his hands. A marketing campaign for our sports drink line. She said my ideas were, quote, about as innovative as a ham sandwich. Claire gasped. Olivia, you said that to your boss? In my defense, Olivia said weakly, it really was a terrible campaign. She was right, Alexander said, his thumb absently stroking her shoulder. Her revision increased sales by 30%. The family exchanged looks, and Olivia could practically see their approval ratings climbing. Well then, Claire clapped her hands together. Dinner's ready. I made lasagna. Italian was your favorite, Alexander, Olivia said pointedly. As they moved to the dining room, Sophia fell into step beside Alexander. Okay, I'm impressed, but I still have questions. Such as, what's Olivia's biggest fear? Alexander almost panicked, then remembered the elevator conversation they'd had 3 weeks ago about quarterly reports, presenting to large groups. She gets nervous speaking in front of more than 10 people. Sophia's eyebrows shot up. Lucky guess. Or do you actually pay attention? I pay attention. The dining room table was set for 6, with enough food to feed a small army. Alexander had grown up with quiet, formal dinners where conversation topics were carefully curated and everyone used the correct fork. This was chaos, everyone talking at once, dishes being passed in seemingly random directions, at least 3 different conversations happening simultaneously. So, Alexander, Daniel said, loading his plate with enough lasagna to feed a linebacker. Olivia tells me you run the whole company. What's that like? Challenging. Rewarding. Some days I feel like I am herding cats. I bet. I run my own landscaping business, nothing like your scale, of course, but I know how hard it is to keep employees motivated. Ethan looked up from his third helping of garlic bread. Olivia said you went to Harvard MBA. Yes, smart and good-looking. Claire beamed at Olivia. Honey, you hit the jackpot. Mom. Olivia's cheeks were permanently pink now. What? I'm just saying your grandmother would have loved him. Grandma Rose would have interrogated him for 3 hours and then decided whether he was worthy, Sophia said. She would have loved him, Claire insisted. Grandma always said the right man for Olivia would be someone who could keep up with her brain and her mouth. Her mouth gets her in trouble sometimes, Ethan said with a grin. Remember when she told off that guy at her college graduation? He was being rude to the catering staff, Olivia protested. She made him apologize in front of his entire family, Ethan told Alexander. It was epic. Alexander looked at Olivia with what felt suspiciously like real admiration. I would have paid to see that. You probably would have been on his side. Corporate solidarity and all. Actually, I would have helped. I can't stand people who treat service workers badly. The conversation flowed easier after that. Daniel told stories about the early days of his business. Claire shared embarrassing childhood stories about all 3 of her children, and Ethan challenged Alexander to a game of pool after dinner. I should warn you, Olivia murmured as they headed to the basement. Ethan was on his college billiards team. Good thing I spent 4 years hustling pool to pay for textbooks, Alexander murmured back. You did not. Scholarship kid, remember? I had to get creative with spending money. Ethan racked the balls with the confidence of someone who'd never lost a game in his life. 8-ball. Okay? What followed was possibly the most competitive pool game in Harper family history. Ethan was good, really good, but Alexander was better, and he played it smart, letting Ethan win the first game before systematically destroying him in games 2 and 3. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Ethan asked, clearly impressed despite himself. Boston College has a very competitive pool scene. Has being modest, Olivia said, surprising them both. I bet he was legendary. Alexander looked at her, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest at the pride in her voice. By 10 o'clock they were saying their goodbyes on the front porch, laden down with enough leftover lasagna to feed them for a week. I like him, Claire whispered to Olivia, loud enough for everyone to hear. Has good for you, thanks, Mom. And he looks at you like you're the most interesting person in the room. He does not. Yes, he does, Sophia confirmed. It's actually kind of cute. In the car driving back toward Manhattan, they sat in comfortable silence for the first few minutes. That went well, Alexander said finally. You were good with them. Almost like you actually enjoyed yourself. I did. Your family is. He paused, searching for the right word. Warm. You mean loud? He repeated firmly. Warm. They care about you. Really care. It's nice. What's your family like? Alexander's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Smaller. Quieter. My parents died in a car accident when I was 15. It's mostly just me and my grandmother now. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's okay. Happened a long time ago. But Olivia caught something in his voice, a carefully controlled sadness that made her chest ache. Is that why you don't like big groups? The loneliness? He glanced at her, surprised by her perceptiveness. Maybe. They were stopped at a red light in downtown Brooklyn when Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and groaned. What? Sophia texted our family group chat. She said, and I quote, I officially approve of Alexander. Hess keeper material. Also, he let Ethan win the first pool game on purpose, which means he's either really smart or really kind, possibly both. Your sister is observant. Too observant. She added, she also says Mom is already looking at wedding venues. We've been engaged for exactly 8 hours. Welcome to the Harper Family Express. We don't do anything halfway. Alexander pulled up in front of Olivia's apartment building in the village. It was a converted warehouse with industrial windows and fire escapes that probably violated 6 different building codes. This is me, she said, gathering her purse and the leftover container. Olivia, she turned back. Yeah? Thank you for tonight. I know this is all fake, but I had a really good time. Something in his voice made her study his face. In the dim glow of the streetlights, he looked younger, somehow less like the intimidating CEO, and more like someone who might actually be lonely. Me too, she said softly. Good night, Alexander. Good night. She was halfway to the building's entrance when he called her name again. What's your favorite flower? What? Your favorite flower. If I'm going to be a convincing fiancé, I should probably know things like that. Olivia smiled. Peonies. Big, messy, dramatic peonies. Perfect. As she walked upstairs to her apartment, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight. The way Alexander had looked at her when she defended the catering worker. The way Head let Ethan win the first game. The way Head seemed to genuinely enjoy her family's chaos. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for tonight. Your family is wonderful. As she saved his number and texted back. How did you get my number? I'm your boss. I have access to all employee information. Also, HR gave it to me. That seems like a privacy violation. I'll add it to the list of things I need to apologize for, along with calling you Harper all the time. What do you prefer? Olivia stared at her phone. This felt dangerously close to an actual getting-to-know-you conversation. Olivia is fine. What should I call you? Alexander works. Unless we're around other people, then you should probably use terms of endearment. Like what? Whatever feels natural. Just maybe not soulless corporate overlord. Despite herself, Olivia laughed out loud. I'll work on it. Good night, Alexander. Good night, Olivia. She set her phone down and looked around her small apartment. Tomorrow Shed be the senior marketing director at one of the biggest companies in New York. Shed also be fake engaged to a man who was turning out to be far more complicated than Shed ever imagined. Her phone buzzed one more time. P.S. Your sister was right. I did let Ethan win the first game, but only because I wanted him to like me. Olivia smiled and typed back. Why did you want him to like you? The response came quickly. Because his opinion matters to you. As she got ready for bed, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about that last text. This fake engagement was supposed to be simple, professional, mutually beneficial. So why did her heart skip a beat every time Alexander looked at her like she was something more than just a convenient arrangement? And more importantly, what was she going to do about it? 3 weeks into their fake engagement, Olivia had learned several surprising things about Alexander Sterling. He took his coffee black but kept honey in his desk drawer for tea. He had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was frustrated, which happened approximately every 15 minutes during board meetings. He owned more books than most libraries, kept a small succulent named Gerald on his windowsill, and despite his reputation as a corporate shark, had personally funded college scholarships for 12 employees' children without anyone knowing. Shed also learned that he was an excellent actor, because no one at Sterling Enterprises suspected their relationship was anything but genuine. The quarterly projections look fantastic, Olivia's new assistant, Marcus, said as he placed a stack of reports on her desk. As senior marketing director, she now had her own office, nothing as grand as Alexander's corner suite, but it had a view of the Hudson and enough space to pace when she was thinking. The sports drink campaign is exceeding all targets. Thanks, Marcus. Any word from the design team about the new packaging mock-ups? They should be ready. By. He paused, grinning. Incoming at 3 o'clock. Olivia looked up to see Alexander approaching her office, carrying 2 coffee cups and what appeared to be a small potted plant. The entire marketing floor had gone subtly quiet the way it always did when the CEO made an appearance. But instead of the intimidating presence he usually projected, he looked almost nervous. Hey, he said, stepping into her office and closing the door behind him. Brought you coffee. And I saw this at the flower shop and thought you might like it. He handed her one of the cups and the plant a small pot of bright pink peonies, exactly like the ones Shed mentioned outside her apartment 3 weeks ago. You bought me flowers, she said, genuinely touched, despite knowing it was all for show. I bought you a plant. Flowers die. This way you can watch them bloom again. Something warm and dangerous fluttered in her chest. Alexander, we have an audience, she said quietly, nodding toward the glass wall where at least half the marketing team was pretending not to watch. Might as well give them something to talk about. Right. Performance. Shed almost forgotten. In that case, she stood up and walked around her desk, reaching up to straighten his tie. You should probably kiss me hello. She meant it as a challenge, a way to test how far he was willing to take their act. She did not expect him to actually do it, but Alexander's hand settled on her waist, and he leaned down, pressing his lips to hers in a kiss that was supposed to be for show but felt entirely too real. It was soft and warm and lasted exactly 3 seconds longer than necessary for their audience. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than usual, and Olivia had to resist the urge to touch her lips. Better? He asked, his voice slightly rougher than normal. Much, she managed, hoping she sounded more composed than she felt. Marcus cleared his throat. Should I come back later? No, we're good, Olivia said quickly, stepping back from Alexander. What did you need? As Marcus launched into details about the design timeline, Olivia tried to ignore the way Alexander's presence seemed to fill her entire office. Had positioned himself behind her chair, one hand resting casually on her shoulder, playing the part of the attentive fiancé perfectly, too perfectly. I'll let you get back to work, Alexander said after Marcus left. But don't forget, we have the charity gala tomorrow night. The Children's Hospital benefit. Black tie. Lots of networking. And unfortunately, my ex-girlfriend will probably be there. Olivia looked up sharply. Ex-girlfriend? Victoria Langford. We dated for 6 months last year. She's persistent. Persistent how? The kind of persistent that shows up at your office unannounced and leaves lingerie in your car. Wow. Okay. That's definitely persistent. Olivia tried to ignore the spike of something that felt suspiciously like jealousy. Is she going to be a problem? Not if we're convincing. Which reminds me, we should probably coordinate our story. How long have we been together? 6 months, Olivia said automatically. Started as just working late together, turned into coffee dates. First kiss was in the supply closet during the Johnson account crisis. Alexander stared at her. You've really thought this through. I'm thorough. What's our song? Our song. Every couple has a song. Something we supposedly danced to or that was playing during some meaningful moment. I don't really do songs. Everyone does songs. What's the last song you heard that you actually liked? Alexander was quiet for a moment, looking genuinely stumped. I honestly can't remember the last time I listened to music for pleasure. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. I'm busy. You're missing out. Olivia pulled out her phone, scrolling through her playlist. Here, put these on. She handed him her earbuds. After a moment's hesitation, he put them in. She hit play on The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra. Classic.